5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello and welcome everyone to Truth, Beer, and Podsequences. Yay indeed, Julia. Welcome to 2025.
Hell yeah, first episode of the new year.
Wow.
That's insane.
Welcome to 2025. This is the podcast where my co-host and I listen to and watch all the Cincinnati-based craft beer media from the previous week. We get together to podcast hosts, and today we are back at Higher Gravity Summit Park. Thank you, Higher Gravity, for being a gracious podcast host. Now, hopefully there aren't too many consequences from the other podcasts and media, YouTube shows and whatnot. Getting to 2025, I think
2024 was a pretty
mostly okay
week week.
Other than
year.
someone throwing me down the stairs for something a couple weeks back, but anyway,
Sorry.
Yeah, I deserved it.
I was just gonna say. I mean,
kind of deserved it.
Kind of.
And but anyways, so my name is Marco. I am a taproom manager here locally. I did brew beer for several years in the area as well. I also am great to throw downstairs. But anyway,
You just roll so easily.
I roll with the punches. You know, I just. Anyways, and that other voice you heard belongs to the best co-host in Podcastlandia.
I am Julia with an A, and besides drinking all the craft beer in Cincinnati, I absolutely love the selection here at Higher Gravity, both locations, because I will say, when you come to Higher Gravity Summit Park or Northside, they have all kinds of things, some of which you might want.
Yes.
Yes.
Some of which
you might want.
Yeah.
Shout out to Your Stupid Opinions. If you're not listening to that podcast, which has absolutely nothing to do with beer, you're missing out on a hell of a lot of laughs.
You are. And I have to be honest, Julia, it came out this morning. I had meetings and I had 2 hours of podcasts that I had to get in. So I haven't even pushed play on that one yet.
Ooh, you're in for a good time.
I saw that many people were commenting about that one. So I'm anxious to get to that one, which I should be able to tomorrow.
All right.
So, but anyways, and how close are they going to be on a live show for Small Town Murder, Columbus?
Columbus, yeah.
You know.
They put on a good show.
Yeah.
Josh and I have seen them twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Get in the truck. All right. Well, all the thoughts and opinions on this podcast are ours and ours alone. They do not reflect any entity which we may be affiliated with, such as full-time jobs, part-time jobs, Higher Gravity, or any other sort of entity that we possibly might be affiliated with. And that goes for myself and Julia, and the Gnarly Gnome can speak for himself.
If he was here.
Well, he's not here.
No, he's not.
So
we are not like those fake-ass podcasts that say that they're drinking.
Podcast.
And that say that they're enjoying, craft beverages while they are doing their recordery. We do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
We have beverages. But, to be fair, it's not always alcoholic in nature, but it is always craft. And most of the time, it's local.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Most of the time it's craft. Most of the time it's local.
Yes.
Most of the time it is alcohol. Mm-hmm. It's doesn't necessarily have to be any of those things.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yes. So Marco, we blah 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 blah.
Yep, we did.
We both are having the same beverage.
Yeah.
This evening, what are we drinking?
We have Pizza Wicked Triple from Brasserie de la Seine out of Brussels. I would imagine it's
pretty dang tasty.
It's pretty good.
You had mentioned it a couple weeks back, and I went, oh, I wonder if they still have that, and they did. So I'm like, all right.
I mentioned it a few weeks back, and I kind of mentioned it, on something that we listened to this past week.
Yeah. So I thought that for our beer leading into the new year, I would have this be our New Year's beer.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's good. I like it.
It is. Yeah. Absolutely.
Excellent thought, Julia.
It's every now and then it happens.
You have them.
Every now and then it happens. Speaking of good ideas, how about we talk about some craft beer media?
Sure.
From the previous week. We have 4 pieces of media to talk about today, maybe 4.5 or 5, depending on if you have any other little nuggets you want to throw in.
The nuggets. Well, so Adam Makes Beer, was the last nugget about Adam Makes Beer when he went out to Washington?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the last one that I saw.
Then that was the last one
Okay.
that I saw as well.
Okay. All right. We have 2 episodes of the Craft Parenting Podcast. Then we have last Monday's The Weekly Pint, because last week we recorded on a Monday because we were not going to record on Christmas Eve.
Right.
Which means we're not going to talk about this week's Weekly Pint because as we're recording, it's Monday. Because, yes. And
Later.
we didn't want to be recording on New Year's Eve.
Right.
And the last show that we're going to talk about is Blake's Craft Beer Podcast, part 4 of his Craft Beer 2024 Summit. Where do you want to start this week?
Let's start with Craft Parenting Pod.
All right. Let's start with the earliest episode they released and then the most current episode that they released.
Okay.
Which means we're starting with episode 232, Higher Gravity's 2024 Beervent Calendar and Midwest Goodby-ing Beervent.
Yep.
My God, what a Midwestern goodbye it was.
Yes.
It had me cracking up. The episode started with them talking about Day 25's Beervent beer, which was Zywick's Porter, which fantastic.
You're a big fan of that.
I like their Baltic Porter
the
more
Baltic.
than just the Porter, but man, that was still an absolutely spectacular beer. If you see either of those products at Higher Gravity or anywhere else, grab a bottle.
Yeah.
They are wonderful. Although I will say I prefer Esoteric's Baltic Porter. But if Esoteric no longer has their Baltic Porter, the Zywick Baltic is the way that I'm going to go when it comes to that
There you
specific
go.
style. Yeah.
Now you know. And knowing's half the battle.
Yo, Joe. They talked a bit about 2024 Higher Gravity Beervent Calendar, the beers that they got out of the box, and
What's in the box?
could they pick a favorite from the Beervent box this year? Their way of trying to pick a favorite beer out of the Beervent box this year, they never actually came to any conclusions, but there were a whole lot of qualifiers where
Yeah.
they were trying to come up with, well, how would we, what would have to be checked? What boxes? Haha. Beervent box.
Hey.
What would need to happen for a beer from the Beervent box to be picked as our favorite? And it's like, well, it depends on the weather and it depends on the type of day we've had and this and that. I mean, I rarely try to pick a favorite out of the box, but I will say that if I did have to pick,
Oh, wait a minute. So you don't pick favorites.
I don't pick favorites.
if you
I
had to,
did,
if you
if I
did.
did pick a favorite, it's
Yeah.
just kind of like we don't rate beer on this channel.
We don't.
But if I did,
If you did,
the beers from the Beervent box that I would rate the highest were the Gilligan's Winter Warmer,
Mm-hmm. Ooh, okay.
West Side, and Esoteric's Pfeffernuss.
Okay.
Those two were
I bet if I had 3 guesses, I could have got.
at least one.
I think I could have.
At
I
least-
gotten one.
Yeah,
I bet
yeah.
I could have.
Probably
Give
got
me,
one of the others,
give me
yeah.
50-50 chances on the second.
Sure. Let's see. They're thinking about getting an additional Beervent box from somewhere else, so not 2 Higher Gravity boxes next year, but another Beervent box from another place, which they didn't say if they were going to stick with local, which I know would probably be Streetside if they do theirs again.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other. I
Brewdog.
don't remember. What's that? Did they? Well, did they though?
I don't know. I don't think
hear
they
anything
did.
About it.
I don't think anybody wants their fucking socks in their beer vent box.
Their bandana is one of the days. Good
Yeah.
God.
Fuck out of here. Yeah, I mean, because conceptually you're like, well, 2 beers a day, and
You're like,
in your
okay.
case, you were probably splitting them with Josh or not, depending on the beer.
Right.
Same thing with Joe and Caroline. I mean, you think that a tree replaced Joe just because, Joe had to go poop or something? No, he didn't want to have anything to do with that beer. He's like, I'm getting out of here.
Ooh, since Joe was not part of those few episodes, did he completely miss out, or did Caroline share or save a little bit of beer in the bottom of that glass so that he could also?
No, he missed out.
Missed out.
Yeah. She knew the assignment.
Yeah,
She
absolutely.
finished the beer.
Absolutely. There was some family gift exchange talk. So speaking of all these random tangents, this episode of theirs was full of random tangents. That's actually my direct note. So many other random tangents.
The other clip that's running around is from previous one about Die Hard being a Christmas movie. So go check that out.
Yeah. And then Caroline couldn't really keep it together by the end. So I think this may have been one of those episodes that they recorded 6 in a row. Because she was like, I need to wrap presents still. And saying she needed to wrap presents still means it was not the 25th day of Beervent that they had this beer, because that's Christmas Day, and she's still wrapping presents on Christmas Day.
I've been there, done
slacking.
that.
I'm sure
There's been
happened,
a 3 a.m.
but, you know,
Christmas wrapping session.
This is true.
I have
Could've
done
been-
that.
It could have been a 3 a.m. thing. I didn't think about that. But
3
good
a.m.
point.
and I
Good
think
point.
she's lonely.
But yeah, it was absolutely a Midwestern goodbye to Beervent. Not as much Beervent recappery as I thought as I thought they were going to have, if I could arrange my words properly. But they also, in previous years, they did do like the weekly recaps and then an actual cohesive recap of the entire season. This one, it seems like they were just done with recording all of these different shows. They came out as one a day, and they're just like, you know what? We're just going to have fun with this one. We're just going to talk about everything holiday related, and that's what you get out of episode 232.
It's a good deal.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to next year.
Yes, because there was a challenge issued by the Gnome. I think this was actually on one of our episodes a couple weeks
I think it was
back.
all right. Yeah, I think it was us.
Yeah, it was when Joe was here. And Joe's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you can't do one piece of content every day and have it actually be recorded or live on that day. And Gnome went, oh, yes, you can.
Yeah.
You just have to be committed to it and go, even if it is midnight.
Look, I just want to
You
say,
just do it, yeah. It's all about the
I
commitment
fully
level.
recognize and respect the level of commitment it is to put out a piece
Oh,
of content
yeah.
for every day of Beervent and the
absolutely,
day leading into Beervent. I commend them for that.
They do an amazing job. Absolutely. Absolutely. There is no question.
They
We
built,
like to tease them about it and be like, oh, it's...
Yeah.
No, but as someone who does, all I do is I write something every... Like, that is...
You
enough.
did a
So
great
doing
job as
video and all
well.
That, thank you.
did a great job with
Thank you.
that as well. Every day of Beervent, a different offering
Mm-hmm.
of word
Wordsmithery.
wordsmithery, the way that you stealthily put together your word projects was fantastic.
I guess that is something else that I can like playfully tease Craft Parenting Podcast about. They're like, well, I could have looked at all the beers and pre-written as many as I could and just
You
go,
could
okay,
have.
day one. But I don't do that.
No
I don't do that. I
Wow.
wait until
shots
I wait
fired.
until day of, and I still make it happen. So Joe and Caroline, you can absolutely make it happen.
Oh,
And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do
Yeah.
next year. How many other inanimate objects
be better.
will take the place of either Joe or Caroline? Ooh, maybe that'll be it. Next year will be all Joe and just random inanimate objects with Caroline's glasses on them.
Wow.
It could happen.
OMG.
It could happen. I really am excited to see what they do next year. Because
I am
they
too.
put a ton of effort into
It's a
this
damn
year.
shame we have to wait all the way until December 1st
Hey,
of
you
next
know
year.
what? 48 weeks.
Or this year.
Yeah, this
Today's
year,
the first
this year,
day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, we have a little less than 48 weeks to go. That is nothing. That is no time at all.
It's not
Unfortunately,
really.
it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah.
We won't be ready for it. Did you have any other notes on this episode of the Craft Parenting Podcast before we talk about their next episode?
No, other than to say that they removed all of the holiday decorations by the time that this episode aired. So they're at least...
Shout out to them for their holiday decor cleanup skills.
Oh, yeah,
my
yeah.
God.
Yeah. And
But they did have new lights
whatever
up.
Dollar Tree is closest to them was totally out of Christmas merchandise. But anyway.
But they did keep up a new set of lights in this episode. Episode 233, we say goodbye to Taft's Brewing. They had some fun, fancy, light stuff happening.
Yeah.
If you watched the YouTube video for this episode. They now have brewery problems and parenting problems.
Yeah.
Because the brewery that they went to the most no longer exists.
Well,
or at least the tap room. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is that weird. Taft's will still exist as a brand
right.
for the foreseeable future as Sinbev determines what they're still going to put out from Taft's and all that. The Taft's Brewing brand will not have its own dedicated taproom space.
Correct.
They won't be putting out all of the same seasonal beers. They're probably going to just try to dial into core beers, maybe a couple of, as they said in the episode, maybe a couple of seasonal core beers.
I
like
wonder,
Santa's Bride might come back. I think that was always a pretty popular one.
From what we know of Sinbad, they have a space that they're working on trying to turn into a tap room.
Correct.
I wonder how much incorporated the Taft's brand is going to be in that tap room once it's open.
I don't know, because they have so many other, I say disconnected brands, because not all the brands that they currently own and produce were always part of the same brewery.
Yeah.
Maybe the taproom space is going to be, here's a selection of all of our brands and not just kind of the Cincinnati legacy brands that they brought back. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. They closed the AleHouse. So they talked about all of the different Taft locations, not so much the Columbus location because not really local. They just talked about the history of Taft's and the kind of order in which the three Taft locations shuttered their doors. They mentioned something that I was unaware of. The reason that the Taft's AleHouse closed was because Joe and Caroline didn't visit enough. Mm-hmm. Like they always went to the brew.
No, I knew
once
it was
that
their
was
fault.
open. Oh, you did?
No,
oh,
yeah.
God.
No,
I did.
Yeah,
I had.
I was waiting
idea.
I was waiting till they admitted it.
Oh, gotcha.
To actually say something.
To call them
but
out
it's
about
their
it.
fault.
I mean, if they would have only gone 2 or 3 more times a year, because if you think about it,
I did my part.
to get to the OTR location.
I was there
the
once.
AleHouse. Yeah, so was I.
Yeah.
Twice. Yeah.
Well,
if you to get from the Brewporium to the AleHouse or vice versa, it's just straight down Spring Grove and onto Central. Like they could have visited both in the same trip, but no. Instead, they said, you know what? We would rather take our kids to watch the trains from the Brewporium, and they just let Taft's AleHouse just close. Very sad. And you see what that led to. It led to just a cascade of doors being
So if you're a
locked
craft beer lover in Cincinnati and you also love trains, where are the other places to train spot?
Glendale House, Mad Tree. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 others that I'm not thinking of offhand. Those are the 2 that I immediately know of. They gave some history of Taft from the beginning, from the AleHouse opening through the other locations opening through.
I don't think everything they said there was exactly accurate.
Yeah, they were still trying to look up.
But
some
neither
stuff.
is everything
No.
we say.
No, we are 100% truthful with everything we say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, why else would there be potential consequences for the things that we say? Let's see. While they had this episode, while they were recording this episode, they drank 4 Taft beers, and as they do, they read the cans to describe them.
Yeah.
They did Frisch's Pumpkin Pie, Cold Boy, Nellie's Orange Creamsicle, and Oktoberfest.
And I guess Joe somehow collected or thought that Nellie, Taft's wife, was known for her key lime pies.
Yes.
When Taft's, the brewery, was known for key lime pie ale.
Yes.
So I guess
Yeah,
he had a little bit of a 1 + 1 = 3 sort of scenario there.
I mean, I could see how he was drawing the lines between all of it.
Yeah.
But again, they don't have to be 100% accurate.
No,
it's perfectly fine.
That is also funny about the 2, the Frisch's and Taft's, the pumpkin pie.
Well, it's interesting that once Frisch's started to go down, well, I guess Taft's was going downhill before Frisch's, or at least publicly, because they closed the AleHouse and they closed Columbus.
But you were onto this early. But I don't know.
I called it as.
I don't know if anybody necessarily thought, okay, if you close a Columbus entity, that means you're closing a Cincinnati entity, or I think that a lot of people thought that the Taft's Brewporium was going to stay open because Impact Brewing was doing so well.
And
why not keep it open?
Right. And like one of our friends said repeatedly, it costs almost nothing to run that tap room. There's no way they're going to close it because it doesn't cost them anything to have it. And I'm like, I don't. That's not the trajectory that I see happening.
But it does.
I never wanted it to.
Even if it breaks even, it still costs money.
Sure.
Even if it breaks even, that money is still spent, and it's just turning the same thing.
Right. But I could understand the whole, if it doesn't cost anything, why not just keep the tap room going? Just to me, that never made sense.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing where I'm like, yeah, but if Impact is making that much money, even if the tap room is basically free for them to run, why would they still do that? Why wouldn't they try to expand?
I'm just shocked at
what
the
Impact
amount
is being able to do.
I'm just
God.
shocked at the fact
amount-
that you could give up that for the contract
yeah.
part of the business.
Right.
It's shocking to me.
Agreed. Now, we know that Sinbev bought the Taft's brand, and they're planning on keeping some of those core beers.
I don't know what
around.
they're
We don't
keeping.
know what, right.
I don't know what they're planning on, other
but
than
if
they bought it.
But they said that they're keeping the Taft's brand, which means that at least for some amount of time, they're still going to sell some of the Taft's brands. I don't know what. Joe and Caroline were talking about their core beers, which would probably be like Gavelbanger, maybe Hoppy Camper, maybe some of the Nellies. I don't know if they can do the Frisha stuff, depending on, they would have to like relicense the use of the name and all that with the new owners of the Frisha's locations that are staying open. I don't know how that's going to work out. But
I don't know if they need to.
No, they don't. They definitely don't need to. But trying to figure out what core beers would Oktoberfest. That's a seasonal, but that was always a big one. Santa's Bribe, seasonal, but always a big one.
Right.
What
Also,
will they keep, if anything?
It's an
or-
interesting question too because of the distribution factor
Right.
of Taft's.
Right.
Taft's in the Cincinnati area had 3 or 4 spaces on the shelf.
Yeah. What's happening with those? Yeah.
Usually what happens is if you can't fill those spaces, they get
Immediately
immediately
But with
eliminated.
Sinbev having their hand to wave over that brand, does that allow Sinbev to hold on to those SKUs and those spaces until they figure out something?
I don't know.
Because the way that
When's
they
the
were,
set? When's the new set come out?
I don't know, but also will they have cans left to put in those spots? Because the way that they were selling and pricing out those 6-packs from the Brewporium this last weekend,
They
$3 for a 6-pack,
well
a $10 case.
Yeah.
People were carrying those things out by the armload.
Yeah.
So were they even going to hold on to any of those to keep and distribute? Most of those,
Well,
when I looked at the cans,
what else does that
they
mean,
were packaged
Julia?
within a week or two.
That means if you're offering a good craft beer deal, people are going to show up and buy it.
Absolutely. Right, sure, absolutely.
Second, it means that there were people that had a connection to that brand.
Sure.
Look, I didn't buy any of it. I wasn't motivated to go buy any of it. That doesn't mean that I didn't like some of it.
Sure.
But, if you're going out of business and selling $3 6-packs, people are going to buy them by the armload.
Absolutely. And
Now,
they-
that's not
and
a
they
sustainable
did.
business model.
No, I think they were getting rid of
Yeah.
stock in the warehouse. They were opening up warehouse space.
Yeah.
But that does...
They can't
that
transfer
does,
it.
So Sinbev, what do you mean they can't transfer?
I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can
Like-
take it from Taft's to Sinbev and then distribute it out.
Okay. Even though Taft's ownership and Indian name, like all that was transferred, so how, whatever.
Look,
that
I'm not
is. I don't-
I'm
yeah.
not a lawyer.
I'm more
Ask
asking,
Michael D. Morgan.
Okay, I will. I'll call
Michael
him up.
brings the D. Morgan.
Hey, Mike, expect a weird text from me later tonight saying, how does this work? And you're going to respond back with, I'm not a beverage distribution law
I text
expert.
Mike and he said, "New phone, who dis?"
Smart answer. Smart response. I do wonder, though, because, again, there were talks
Text
of,
back, "You ho."
you know who this is. Give me my child support.
Right.
But yeah, they were taught the social media posts and all that from like Taft's and Sinbev on that being bought out is like some, the brands you love will still be available, blah, 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 whatever, glossy, shiny red bow they're trying to put on it. But as we've talked and heard, the Taft's brewing equipment is gone. Like they can't brew in that location anymore.
No.
Like it's all mixing and all that. So where would they be making those beers? Would it be at...
Sinbev.
They had some reckless speculation
A reckless speculation.
on what Taft's brands you'll still see coming from Sinbev, which we kind of just talked about, like
yeah,
the
we just kinda
flagships
did that.
and all that. And then did you notice at the end of this episode, Joe was stoked to show off the award that he got?
Yes.
And Caroline was just like, who the fuck cares about that? A 5-year-old
Yeah.
gave it. Like, I think she was mad that she didn't get an award from anyone.
Yeah.
Did you have any other notes on the 2 episodes of the Craft Parenting Podcast before we move on to our next show?
No, I think I had too many notes. There's too many notes.
All right. Did you need to take a break before we get into, I'm going to say the weekly pint next, or do you want to just go ahead and jump into it? It wasn't like a huge episode.
No, I'm going to take a quick break.
All right. Hang out with us, guys, and we will be right
back.
I think that might have been our shortest break ever, or at least our shortest break in quite a while.
we didn't have any of the distractions that we have.
This is true.
At times during some of the breaks.
This is very true. I mean, I'm still working on my Pete's Wicked Triple, but you have another glass in front of you.
I have the rotating West Coast IPA from Wandering Monsters.
Excellent. Distribution from the brewery that is not distributing.
Right.
16, it's good.
Bottle,
they have that.
The bottle, it looks like a big bottle, enough to split between 2 people, and you could.
Yeah.
But it's 16.9 ounces.
Right. It's not that much more. It's not a bomber. It's not.
Right.
Yeah. It's always good to see them. I still haven't made it out there, which I know, shame on me for that, but I have.
I made it somewhere that you hadn't?
I know. It's crazy, right?
Wow.
Crazy. Well, we have.
We were invited. I made it.
Yeah. I know. I felt so bad. Actually, before we talk about the weekly pint, we have a thing that we have in the regular season one more time to do.
Oh, shit.
And that is brought to us by Don Rock the Imposter on YouTube. Again, I am so incredibly happy that he agreed to let us use the music in our podcast. I don't think he realized how much we were going to be using the music in our podcast, but seriously, give him a listen, give him a follow. And before we get too far into this, we have to bring on another voice, so we will see if they answer. Always iffy on if we're going to get him to pick up.
Hello,
Gnome.
I was just trying to think of some kind of clever New Year's saying to do when I picked up the phone, but I'm not that clever, so.
Just Happy New Year.
Hi.
There probably aren't that many clever New Year's sayings, though.
The gnarly gnome, how's your resolutions? I don't know.
But you know what? The next time that we do this, we're going to be into the postseason. This is the last NFL deathmatch pick of the regular season.
Heck yeah.
Which means one of us is going to walk away with a 6-pack or 2. And we'll have to figure out timing of when we're going to do that, and if we want to wait until the end of, like after the Super Bowl and just combine it all, or, whatever we end up doing. But we still have Week 18, which is a big week.
It's a very important week.
For a couple of teams. I know that the Bengals still have a chance. A couple things
Not
just need to play
chance.
out.
They're ready to go.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding. This could be their best week yet. And I don't want to say that's saying a lot because the last few weeks have been absolutely ridiculously good. But, man, this could be where they turn it up to 11.
There are some aspects of this team. There's some aspects that is just the absolute best Bengals football that I've ever seen.
Like their kicker.
Some aspects that maybe not so much.
Like their kicker. Oh, man, did you see the video where you could hear on, like, one of the hot mics, you have one fucking job?
No.
Oh, my God.
I'll send it to you.
Oh, my God.
I have it.
Man.
And I believe they're saying it came from a fan, like in the stands and not like anyone on the
I hope
Bengals
so.
sideline. I do too. I mean, the camera was on like Zach Taylor, so it was not him saying it.
Right. It wasn't
And
him. It wasn't Burrow.
The way that it was screamed, like you could tell that the vocal cords of whoever was saying this were like being pushed to their limit, which is why I think it probably was someone in one of those first row seats. But oh my God. Just the sound of that ball hitting the upright. No. Especially from, what was it, 33 yards?
It was 33 yards.
That was a gimme.
It wasn't raining. The wind wasn't blowing at 97 miles an hour. I just... Well,
He's in the union.
It's typical Cincinnati sports pain is what it is.
He's in the union as a paid player. He needs to make a 33-yard field goal.
And then the game went into overtime. I'm like, my heart can't handle this. I don't know what to do.
No,
but
again, Cincinnati sports.
With that being said, no. Who are you picking to win for Week 18?
I think I'm going to change things up this week.
Oh, shit, yeah?
I'm going Bengals.
Ah,
All right.
ooh.
All
Houday.
right. Going for the dark horse
Normally
there.
I go Houday.
That's
Bengals.
true.
I'm gonna
That's
go
true.
Bengals.
Houday.
Houday.
All right. All right. Not bad. Not bad. Marco, who are you going with this week?
This is a really tough one because with it being the last week in the regular season, of the teams that are in the playoffs, you don't know how they're going to play.
Right, who they're going
Their
to start.
players.
Who
If you
yeah,
pick the
yeah.
Chiefs, I'm gonna walk
I
over there
will-
and
I
punch
will-
you in the stomach.
Yes, I will end this podcast right now.
Do you
and I will
promise to
find a
walk
new-
over here right now?
No, it's a very long
It's a
way
very
to walk.
long
No, I'm not picking the Chiefs. I can tell you that.
I will
No, but
never pick the
It's really weird, right?
It
like
is.
You,
It's hard. Yeah.
like you think that a game like the Bucks versus Saints, the Bucks have something to play for, but they're
The Buccaneers had a duck on their field.
yeah.
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 They have that going for them.
The Bills are playing the Patriots, but who, they're
They're both red and blue. I mean,
they're
I don't
in
know.
and
Same color scheme. How does that play out?
the Eagles.
There's no way that even if the Bills put out like just a random selection of their fans on the field, that the Patriots would win.
Fair.
The Eagles playing the Giants.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
Giants went and
yeah.
fucked up the first pick in the first round.
Yeah.
And because they wanted to, I don't know, impress their wives or something. I have no idea. So this is a really,
It's-
really tough one for me.
Yeah.
I am going to go with the Washington Commanders to beat the Dallas Cowboys because I think the Commanders need to keep the ball rolling. I don't think they can I don't think they can let up any. Like I think yesterday with the win, squeaking out a win versus that team. I think they can't rest on anything. They need to put it out and.
That's fair.
The Cowboys. It's a little risky because the Cowboys have been on a little bit of a winning streak.
They have been, yeah.
I think it's
But
5
hasn't been
games,
enough.
right?
Right. But are they going to try to keep that up for the last game of the regular season when they're kind of not really playing for much?
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to go for the Chargers over the Raiders because I feel like that's going to be a
Raiders coming off a
fairly
win versus
safe
the Saints.
pick. Right. But I still think that with the other matchups that are happening, that's a
Chargers
pretty decent.
are a wild card team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going Chargers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a solid pick.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see what happens. Currently, pre-week 18, the points are as follows because we really haven't done this in a
Oh
while.
yeah. Okay.
Gnome, currently you have 9 points.
Score. All right.
I have 12, and Marco has 13.
Okay.
So-
I can come right back this week. This week's my chance.
Hey, all the
Nice.
Bengals have to do
I think.
is both win and make multiple receives for touchdowns, either punt return or kickoff return for touchdowns, because you get an extra point for those. And I'm going to say an extra point for each one, and then absolutely, you're still in the
There's
running.
a chance.
Yeah,
There is a chance.
we're saying there's a chance.
And for me, my pick doesn't come true, and Julia her pick does, then we end up tied.
Yes. So
We'd
let's
split
figure
it.
that out. Let's
Yeah.
split something or do whatever. Yeah.
We haven't really
figured that out
six
yet.
six pack.
I
Sure.
think you guys
From
have
Gnome.
to actually go in the deathmatch cage of doom. and
That
battle it out.
with fly swatters or something.
I was going to say cattle prods.
Aye, cattle
Yeah,
prods.
that too. That
fly
too.
swatter's
Yeah.
fun.
All right. Well, we'll let you get back to getting stuff done around the house. We will see you online tonight as we're recording this for the weekly
Cheers,
pint.
buddy. See you in a few hours. Weekly
And
pint.
in
yeah.
case we don't, I know we won't see you before then, but in case we don't talk to you before then, Happy
Happy
New
New
Year.
Year.
Happy
Yeah,
2025,
Happy New
sir.
Year, guys.
All right. Cheers. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
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 All right. The stakes are high, and you'll still be hearing this for another few weeks because we're going to keep the Deathmatch Challenge going through the Super Bowl. This is just the end of round 1, the regular season.
So
who will
and-
come away with the 6-pack?
So we do
Who knows?
regular season,
Yes.
playoffs, postseason.
Yeah, which is like the wild card games and then all the like playoff games.
And then it starts
third
again
round for
Super Bowl.
Yes. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. And we still have a couple weeks left of Don Rock.
That's right.
Hell yeah, I'm excited. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Weekly Pint, episode 241. 'Twas the night before the night before.
Yeah.
Yes, they do their Christmas stuff on a day that's not quite Christmas for reasons unbeknownst to anyone except for the Gnome household. Maybe he'll talk about it one day. Maybe he won't.
Maybe. I don't know.
It is his secret to keep for however long he wants to keep it.
Yeah.
Gnome has a theory on white Christmases and what helps or hurts them from happening.
And by the way, it's you.
It's all of us this year, I
It's
feel
all
like.
of us. We all have a part in whether it's a white Christmas or not.
It's true.
And
watch this episode because he's obviously not putting these out on Patreon, on podcast form anymore. Gnome, you're slacking.
I'll raise my hand and say I fully admit to it.
Oh, yeah,
I fully
yeah,
admit
absolutely.
to,
Same.
You know,
I am-
the results, I fully admit to.
100%. The beer he drank for this episode was that day's Beervent beer, which was Esoteric's Pfeffer News. Absolutely fantastic. He also drank a pickle spritz that Josh and I gave to him because, you know, he'd
Yeah.
been saying he wanted to try that, but none of us were willing to pay $25 for a 4-pack of a pickle wine spritzer. But they had a Black Friday deal, a 50% off a 4-pack, so I'm like, you know what? Sure.
Nice.
I'll do that. I'll give him a couple cans. I'll keep a couple cans. I still haven't tried mine because I'm a little nervous about it, but maybe I'll do that when I get home tonight. Maybe that's what I'll have during the Weekly Pint.
I would say do it on a morning where you don't have to get to work too early. Not because
Maybe.
you need to sleep in and sleep it off, but because you might need to, you know,
Purge.
use the restroom.
Maybe.
You know.
This is true. And then he also drank a bunch of peppermint schnapps.
Yeah.
Because it is
I
still
polished
the
off my
season.
bottle of peppermint schnapps
Nice,
during that.
nice. I still have a good amount left, but man, every time I have a dark beer, it gets a shot of schnapps. It is fantastic.
I've had a lot of thunder snow lately, and I have not put it in thunder snow.
That could work. I don't know.
I'm more of a on the rocks guy.
Yeah.
You know, for it.
I'll sip on it like just straight.
Yeah.
Or I put it into typically a darker beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, it is
A
phenomenal.
little Tervis with some ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talked about Parks and Rec. Mantry Parks and Rec is opening soon. February 6th has been their announced date, which because there's always an ish to those things, does that mean that it's actually already completely done? And they're like, just in case there are any little hiccups, we're going to give it another month. Marco and I, if we end this recording early enough, we're going to walk over there and find out.
Yeah.
We will find out for you, and we will report back next week because we're not going to record anything else tonight.
We're going to put our nose to the glass and see what's up.
Exactly. Will this location outpace Oakley? I think it is entirely possible, and Gnome gave his reasons for why he thinks that, and they all track. Like, I can't think of anything wrong with his thoughts on why Parks and Rec could become the more popular Mantry tap room.
I think if it does half of what Oakley does, it's an enormous success.
He also had there was some interesting commentary from some of the people that were chatting during the live stream.
Yeah.
Will Parks and Rec be more, and you'll need to watch this episode to find out what this means. Will it be more anti-kid and dog friendly than Oakley, with the park being right outside its front door? And it was an excellent question. And
I just want to say that the pack and plays that are being built into the space
yes.
are going to be a big help.
Oh, well, I mean, I can still see people getting cranky about having to, like, reserve one, and they can't just show up and expect that one's going to be free.
I mean, that's always the case,
well,
right?
this is true.
I don't understand. My kid has a birthday, and we're here.
And we didn't tell you guys about this, but we
didn't
showed
tell
up
you.
with 30 toddlers that all need their own pack and plays,
Yeah.
and why, I don't understand.
I know, I don't get
This is true. This is true. Some beers smell like warm hugs,
Yeah.
which I agree with.
Yeah.
I
already agree.
think there was, like, most beverages, or a lot of beverages, not just in the, excuse me, not just in the beer sphere, can smell like just comfort and love. And in case you're wondering why it suddenly got really fucking loud in here, there is a Run Club meetup happening here at Higher Gravity Summit Park. They're meeting up before they go out to run, and then they'll probably be back for a beer after. So we might pick up the pace a bit just so that we're done before they get back. And plus,
maybe.
then we can, again, check out Parks and Rec while the weather study.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do we have here? He broke out the fancy glass for his shot of peppermint schnapps.
Yes.
He also broke a fancy glass.
He did.
Trying to drink his pickle. I hope that all the glass shards have been cleaned up. Let's see, what else did we have? Watch this episode to find out what Gnome's family put out for Santa this year, and did Santa actually get to enjoy it? Because that's always a big question. Did Santa enjoy what was set out for him for every Christmas?
Yep.
And then Gnome's New Year's Eve tradition versus his Christmas tradition. He does something a little bit different in the reflections, I guess you could say, that he has, who those are directed to and at for each of the different holidays.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good shit.
Then we got some teasers on Gnome merch coming in 2025.
Like it.
So keep an eye out. I'm loving it.
I'm excited.
It's going to be fantastic. Did you have any other notes on this episode before the sip and sniff count for this episode? Because we still have one more show to talk about, and I have a feeling it's going to be...
Have any notes?
No.
No.
Good. Liam?
Oh, wow. Liam.
Crying out loud. The guy's always just creeping around. Makes me nervous. And like our backs are against the wall,
Liam.
like literally. So it's like
we
should
need to be able to see
coming.
him.
Yeah. But he still somehow sneaks up.
I have a very particular set of skills.
Ugh. It's creepy, Liam. It's creepy. Just come up and have a seat and say hi.
All right.
Don't be weird.
Wow. Jesus.
All right. The number of sniffs that were taken, pretty high because of the 3 different beverages that he consumed. 40. And then the sips that he took this episode, he took 12.
12.
So that is a total of 52 countables. That is 104 ounces if you're drinking by our math. That is 6.5 pints in 1 hour and 7 minutes, because this episode did go a little long.
Yeah. I think I did that during this spot.
It's fine. It's fine.
Hey, I was, it was before Christmas.
Yeah. All kinds of Christmas cheer going on.
Yeah, we'll do this.
Always absolutely amazing to see Todd up here.
It is
and everywhere
great.
that we see him. Sonder here.
Everywhere.
And we're going to see him over at Parks and Rec soon enough.
Oh, yeah.
In February.
Oh, yeah.
Todd's the best. He is absolutely
He's great.
the best. All right, last show that we have to talk about. Let's go ahead. This one, every show
We may have to take a break in the middle of talking about this.
Oh, good Lord. No, so I'll start the way that we normally start. Blake's Craft Beer Podcast, episode 43, Craft Beer Summit 2024, part 4, series finale, the Podcasters Panel, which had the Gnarly Gnome, Mike and Brett from Brew Skies, and myself and Marco.
Hey.
We never do a good job of recapping things that we're on.
That's true.
Because neither of us like really talking about ourselves, and
It may come to surprise some of you. That's
Yeah.
not what I really do. Okay?
That's
This is a
that's
character I
facade that
play.
he puts on. Yeah.
It's a character I play when we turn the microphones on. I don't really talk about myself and all that.
This episode was absolutely phenomenal, though I will still continue to apologize to Blake for just
I probably should apologize
us going
for some
off
things
the.
too, but
I
that's fine.
say we went off the rails, but most of the time that we went off the rails, it was still about craft beer and the state of the industry, the things that Blake wanted to talk to us about.
Yeah.
We just got derailed by like a random word like cloaca, and all of a sudden it just. We were talking. It went from there to like distribution and this and that. Where all Blake really wanted to know is, what do you feel about the state of craft beer currently, and what are you excited for? What are you not excited for? Like, he had like 13 questions he wanted to ask us, and I think he got to ask like 3.
Yeah. I think what listeners, and I preface this by saying, look, Blake has come a long way in working through some of the technical issues that he has, as well as just him settling in as a podcaster and / interviewer. But he was doomed from the start with bringing us all together because we all lead shows in our own way, and so. But you're right; it all was pertinent, and it all covered the topics that were presented or,
Right.
or tangented to, and it was all about beer and spaces in one way or another.
I
but
just
there
don't
were,
think it was as laid out. It wasn't in as nice of a grid as what Blake probably wanted. But it was the content itself was still absolutely fantastic. And leading a panel is completely different than just sitting down with one or two people from the brewery, where it's still kind of like a one-way street. Like, you all have the exact same things that you want to talk about, where you get a whole bunch of personalities and a whole bunch of other people that, like our show, for example, like, we go off the rails more times than we actually stay on track. When Gnome is with us, it's 10 times as bad. You see that with Brett and Mike. Like, one of them will start going off on a rant about something that really doesn't have much to do with anything that they just talked about other than a singular word, and they have to try to pull it back on track. And you notice that when Gnome has been on their show. So maybe Gnome's the problem. You know what I'm noticing?
I think another thing that correlates to that is the number of people that are talking, right? And we know when it's the two of us, we kind of, depending on how many topics we're talking about, our shows or whatever, and then we add Gnome, and then we add,
like, when Joe shows up, when Blake has showed up. Yeah,
we go
Jason, Nick,
we have all the mics out. We go 6 wide, and we're like, no, I mean, it's a longer show. Everyone's got a piece that they talk about.
And you want to let everyone say their piece, which is why for the Women in Beer panel, I didn't want any more than 6 people total on the panel, because I didn't know if I would be able to kind of control the flow of the conversation, because I wanted the conversation to be as organic as possible, which this episode of Blake's show absolutely was. But when you have things that you definitely want to ask and a topic you want to try to stick to, you also have to be able to kind of re-steer the conversation back to where it fits to slot in those other questions that you might want to ask, and not just have on the back burner of, hey, if the conversation gets stale, here's a list of questions to start with. For us, conversation never got stale. Blake just had to figure out, I really wanted to ask them this question. How do I just shove that in? Because there was no other way for him to kind of regain some of that control. So this, I laughed so hard while we were recording this episode with Blake and everyone else, and I laughed just as hard re-listening to this episode.
Yeah.
It is a great time. It's 2 hours long, but it doesn't feel like it. Like, when you're listening to it, because of the way the conversations flow and like the little interjections of just completely random shit, like talk about gargoyles and bird anatomy and, good God, so many of the other things. But you also get a very clear picture of how we think the state of the industry is so far, which on some hand mirrors some of the other panels that he's done with the Ohio Craft Beer Association, with the Dayton panel, and with the Cincinnati panel that he did. But there were also very different views as well, especially I think from mostly me and Mike, because even though Gnome is still, air quotes, just a consumer, he is still way more involved in the beer industry than Mike and myself are. And you and Brett are also at another kind of level of that because of being, like, working in the industry. So I think there was a little more of and not coming from a place of understanding the financials. I can just say, well, I don't like this and I was disappointed in this, where everyone else is like, no, it was great that these things got, had focus put onto them. Well,
and Brett and Mike are published authors, and
absolutely
they do a podcast about beer history, and that comes up too. Actually, the quote comes up, well, you guys talk about beer history, and Mike's saving OTR, one building at a time, and
one tunnel at a time,
and he taught a craft beer, or he taught a beer history class. It was just really fun to get together and
deep dive about beer.
And talk to those. To talk for us, we talk, every week.
Yeah.
But to sit down and talk with Blake and Brett and Mike and the three of us as well, it just was an amazing opportunity. It was fantastically fun, and unfortunately, other than hearing that it's amazing and it was fun, you're not getting a lot of the nuts and bolts, brass tacks that
Right.
we do in a lot of the podcasts. I think if you and I have, I don't know, 1 or 2 bullet points that came up, we can go ahead and give them.
Yeah, I had written down when I listened to this episode today, I wrote down a couple of the talking points, some of the fun parts or some of the really in-depth discussions that we had, but there were too many of them for me to say we talked about this and this and this without, again, we'd be just rehashing the entire conversation, which we wouldn't even do justice in trying to rehash.
Because so much of it free flowed from one thing,
Exactly.
leading to the other, leading to the other, and then going back to the thing
that Blake originally asked or
Right.
tried to ask. Or,
Yeah.
Like one of the things that came up in the beginning was, are there any local breweries that have actual ads? Do they advertise at all? And we'd mentioned, I've seen a couple of like billboards for Mad Tree, Rheingeist, not a lot of print stuff. But what was funny was this weekend while watching the Bengals game, there was a Little Miami Brewing commercial on TV.
Yep.
And it wasn't just this is the, Milford Association promoting local businesses. Like it was a start to finish Little Miami Brewing commercial.
Yeah. Had
So
Ken
that
Brew
was-
in it,
had
local
Ken Brew,
personality,
yeah.
personality. But people forgot that RG Bevs had television commercials.
Right, I completely forgot about that too.
They
yeah.
did.
But since that, there hasn't been anything else.
Because so many places, number one, are so small, they don't have a budget for that kind of thing.
No.
And then number two, even if they had the budget for that kind of thing, they weren't willing to bet that kind of money on that.
Correct. Yeah.
And they wanted to put it somewhere else.
Right. I insulted Brett multiple times by calling the product that his company makes beer or sours instead of fruit tarts.
By the way, if you listen closely, he calls it beer as well.
Yes. And then if you listen, well, not really close, he said it pretty loud, you can hear Michael Bringsedy Morgan say, "Stop complimenting Brett, it's disgusting."
You can also hear him say, I disagree with Brett and I agree with Gnome.
That caused a stunned silence to befall the entire space.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Breweries cannot survive on nostalgia. Like
That
trying
did-
to bring back stuff. That was a fun conversation
That did come
as
up.
well.
That was
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
And also, that was spawned from the evolution of breweries being hype
Yes.
versus not, or versus a different sort of identity, following a trend, that sort of thing.
Right, exactly. One of the things that Blake asked, which he'd asked all the other panelists in parts 1, 2, and 3, what is a trend that you're glad has gone away or that you don't understand? That either you're glad has gone away or that you don't
Shocker to
understand?
everyone, I said lactose.
Yes, but you also said something else that had a huge revelation to it. You said 19.2s.
Yeah.
And I forget if it was Brett or Mike, but someone's like, why are they so great? Like, what is the big deal
Oh, I
with 19.2s?
cut it down to the simplest
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yes. What did you say? And like, what makes them so great?
Okay, so let me break this down. All right, I don't want to give everything away. I'm going to go ahead and give this away. This was said on the podcast.
Yes.
They were wondering about the mystery about 19.2s, and I said it's very, very simple.
Yes.
I love 19.2s.
Yes.
Why? Mm-hmm. Because it's more than 12 ounces.
Yes.
That's it.
Sometimes the simplest answer is the correct one.
Look, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
What do you love about 19.2? Well, it's more than 12 ounces.
And the crowd lost it.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I loved it.
So, sometimes a
couple other notes
the
on this.
easiest answer.
Yeah. This is such a short recap for a long and incredibly well done episode. I don't think Blake edited a damn thing out. I think he started listening to it and went, I have absolutely no idea how to trim any of this, mostly because so much of the conversation was incredibly relevant, and like you said, it flowed from topic A to B to C to 3 to 26 back to A. I love the part, one of the final questions Blake asked about where do we see our podcast going, what do we want, what are the goals for our podcast and how we want them to grow. Again, not going to spoil anything about that. We actually talked about that a little bit on last week's episode, I believe it was, and some of the things that we want to try to do for Truth, Beer, and Consequences in 2025. But I will close out the notes that I took on this episode 43, that we took. Correct. Thank you, Marco. With something that is so incredibly accurate. Blake closed out the episode by saying, "Some of this conversation has been great." Some of this has been great. It was, I mean, and I know exactly what he meant and how he meant it. But, oh my God,
saying it
was
that
like,
way is perfect.
It was. It absolutely was for the group of us, and just like the head in hands. He said multiple times on mic, "I don't know how I'm going to edit this. You guys are really going to like push it." He just went, "Fuck it. Everyone gets everything." There was no Blake After Dark. There was no Patreon content. Absolutely. And I think that this hopefully will push more people into listening to Blake's podcast to see just the amazing content he's putting out, because he is bringing together on his show incredibly great, fantastic, strong voices that need to be heard. He is doing amazing things with his show, and I am just so grateful and thrilled that we got to be part of it.
I am as well. And I'm just looking forward to the next opportunity to sitting down and being able to talk to, everybody again, because that was so much fun. It was a really fun, really fantastic, and to be honest, to be able to sit down and talk to Brett and Mike was something that I was really, really looking forward to, especially with, you and Blake and Gnome. I mean, that's just a perfect confluence of the people that I wanted to sit and talk about that sort of stuff with. So,
absolutely.
And I had such a good time, and it was so much fun. And if at any point we can do that in the future, I'm ready. I'm locked in.
Blake, we thank you so incredibly much. You have done such an absolutely amazing job with your first, not even full year of podcasting on your own. Keep an eye on Blake's Craft Beer Podcast. He's doing great things for the southwestern Ohio area.
Yeah.
Those were all the podcasts that we had to talk about this week. Marco, do you have any closing notes before we wrap this up and walk over to Parks and Rec and just kind of rub our faces on the glass, leave some nice face prints for them to have to clean up in the morning. See if that ladder is still leaning against the wall. That's what I really want to know.
No, I think I just want to tell everyone that, echo what I talked about in Cincy Beer Events, which is get out and support the places that you like.
Yes.
This is a great time being this airing the first day of the year. Go ahead and think about the places that you like. Think about the places that have opened. Think about the places that have closed. If you care about, this community and want to see it, continue and thrive, then think about the places you haven't been before. Are you interested? Do you have any interest? What's going to spark you to get out there? Maybe you can get together with friends or something like that. Or maybe they're not in your area. They're not in your zone. You don't really feel like doing that, but you're going to commit to, trying to support the places that are local to you on a slightly more regular basis, because it's going to be tough out there. It always is in January.
Yep.
And coming out of January, for those of us that come out of January as businesses, we're going to, look for that support.
And you mentioned January. I know that a lot of people do dry January, or they just use the beginning of the year to kind of cut back on alcohol consumption, which is great.
Factory reset, not a problem.
But just remember that almost every single local bottle shop and brewery that I can't think of a single one that doesn't. They all have plenty of non-alcoholic options, so you can still support them while still working towards your own personal goals.
Yeah, we should probably plan a portion of an episode or a whole NA episode to
actually,
because it's been 2 years since we've done one.
Yeah, and you know what? I believe, as a slight teaser, as long as the stars align properly and scheduling works out, next week's episode we're going to be doing a bonus with Jason from Higher Gravity, kind of a post-mortem of this year's, or I guess as this comes out, this past year's 2024's Beervent calendar, and how he thought things went, how people that bought the calendar thought they went. And I believe he's participating in Dry January. I might be speaking for him, but I thought he mentioned something like that. Maybe we use that as an opportunity to make that our NA show.
Yeah.
Because the ones that we've done in the past have been fantastic. And with so many new products out there, it's a lot of
there's
new,
not all the time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of new offerings, and they're so much better than, the NAs of, my 20s.
Well, of even 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, they were so much better than,
a huge advancement.
With all of that being said, thank you so very much for another year of your support and your listenership. If you like the fun that we've had on this episode, go to truthbeerpod.com. That's where you'll find links to everything that we do, from our social media channels to our sister podcast, Cincy Beer Events, where we give you all the beer events happening in and around the Cincinnati area. We also have a mailing list for those events. Just plug in your email address and you'll get those events emailed to you with sign-up links and all that good stuff. And link to our Patreon, which is a hell of a lot of fun, because that's where you get mostly unedited episodes. I cut out the silences for when we get refills, have to run to the bathroom because you don't want 20 minutes of dead air. Or maybe you do. Maybe one of these times for Patreon, I'll give you all the silences and none of the actual content.
And you keep in all the fucks and shits.
Absolutely. I don't bleep any of that shit out. Yeah. With that being said, Marco, what are you going to be doing next week?
Next week, Julia. Let's do this here.
Sounds good.
Again.
Cheers. Happy New Year to everyone. May we all have a fantastic 2025.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.